I had just settled into my seat on the plane, ready to leave the country when a message from my valedictorian girlfriend, Chloe, lit up my screen. Liam, so nervous about his first flight, was shaking, but I just managed to get him to sleep. Have you finished packing for Harvard? I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep. Why did your parents say you weren't home? Ethan, if you don't pick up right now, we're breaking up. An endless stream of messages poured in. She checked the admissions list for Harvard's incoming freshmen on her phone, only to be stunned when she couldn't find my name. She called everyone we knew, but only got the same reply. Ethan has gone to study abroad. He said, he never wants anything to do with you again. She collapsed onto the leather seat in first class, her mind flashing back to when she was named valedictorian. Everyone had assumed she would give the guaranteed admission slot to me. Later, she had tried to soothe me, explaining, if he doesn't get into a top school, he'll be forced to go back to his family's farm. He needs a spot more than you do. You can just apply to another university near Harvard, like Boston University. We can still be together. Just moments before the university application portal closed, my father's voice came through the phone. We've already secured your admission to the school in London. You can head over as soon as the semester begins. But are you sure about this, son? Chloe has been attached to you since you were kids. Now she'll be at Harvard and you'll be an ocean away. I clutched the phone and said softly, our paths are diverging. It's time to call off the childhood betrothal. There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by a sigh. You're still young, Ethan. You'll meet plenty of other people. Once you've left for London, we'll go to the Jensens and formally break the engagement. A bright female voice suddenly called out from behind me. I turned to see Chloe had pushed open the gate to our estate. I hung up the phone, my expression carefully neutral. She smiled as she approached, holding out a suit. Ethan, hurry up and get changed. Later, at the party, I was sitting in Chloe's car. Liam was also wearing a suit, one from the same designer collection as mine. Chloe came over and explained, I figured Liam wouldn't have a suit, so I just bought one for him too. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. During a party game, Liam acted as timid and insecure as ever. Even when he tasted something delicious and his eyes lit up, he would instinctively glance at Chloe for her reaction. The first dare was to look at Chloe's pinned iMessage chat, where the name Ethan was right at the top. The second dare was to look at her photo album, which was filled with pictures of me. My profile as I slept at my desk, my hair flying as I ran on the track, my contented smile as I held a cup of bubble tea. The third dare was to see her Notes app, which was filled with a detailed list of my likes and dislikes, and even relationship advice like always reflect on my own attitude first. Someone joked, Chloe, you're so obsessed with Ethan. What will you do if someone steals him away? Chloe laughed, full of confidence. He can't get away. Besides, I've already helped Ethan apply to a university right near Harvard. A bitter smile touched my lips as I glanced toward Liam in the corner. The color had drained from his face. In the next round, a distracted Liam lost the game. His dare was to kiss the girl sitting to his left. To his left sat a girl notorious for a fiery temper. Liam's expression froze. He quietly asked if he could have a different dare, but the group shouted him down. Just as he was about to touch the girl, Chloe suddenly shot up, pulled the other girl aside, and kissed him herself. I felt my heart clench violently. Liam's face was burning red. Then it hit me. That was supposed to be my seat. The person to Liam's left should have been me. The atmosphere turned awkwardly silent, and everyone looked at me with a mixture of pity and embarrassment. Seeing as the party was almost over, I stood up to leave. Ethan, Chloe cried, chasing after me and grabbing my wrist. Her voice was laced with a rare panic. Liam didn't want to kiss her. It was just a kiss. It didn't mean anything. I smiled and pulled my hand away, enunciating each word clearly. Kiss him for as long as you want. It has nothing to do with me. Chloe froze, the color draining from her face. Liam followed her out, his voice trembling and his thin frame shivering in the night wind. He looked so pitiful, as if I were the villain. If you're going to be angry at someone, be angry at me. Chloe immediately shielded him. What are you doing? I already explained it to Ethan. He won't be angry. Liam finally let out a sigh of relief, saying timidly, oh, good. But Chloe grabbed his wrist. It's not safe for you to go home alone. I'll give you a ride. But what about Ethan? His family's driver will be here for him soon. With that, she pulled Liam into the car. I stood frozen, watching the taillights disappear into the darkness. Rain began to pour down as I tried to hail a cab. An out-of-control electric scooter swerved and knocked me over, my knees slamming hard against the pavement. I had no choice but to limp my way forward. 3 hours later, I finally made it home. The next day, the doorbell rang nonstop. Chloe was at the door, her face etched with worry. Why didn't you answer my text yesterday? I got hurt. Went to bed early, so I didn't see them. Only then did Chloe notice the gash on my leg. How did that happen? Her eyes widened in realization. Oh God, I forgot to tell you my driver called in sick. Ethan, why didn't you call me? If I had called you, would you have come back for me? I stared at her. What if something had happened to Liam at the same time? Would I still have been your first choice? Chloe hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding, her voice taking on a placating tone. Ethan, let's go to SeaWorld. I already bought the tickets. She tried to win me over just like she used to. Come on, you've been wanting to see the Orca show, right? But when we got to SeaWorld, Liam was there too. He greeted me awkwardly, his fingers twisting the hem of his shirt as if he were afraid of upsetting me. Chloe instinctively stepped in front of Liam to explain. I saw on his Facebook that he wanted to come, so I thought I'd bring him along. I watched her shield him, but in the end, I said nothing and silently got into the passenger seat. For the rest of the day, Chloe led him from one ride to another. She rode the carousel with him, buckled his seatbelt for him, and even held his hand when he got nervous. I felt like a ghost, silently trailing behind them. Finally, we went to the Orca show where the host was randomly picking audience members to participate. Chloe shot her hand up high. My friend has never been here before, she told the host. Could he get a chance to try it? One of the activities involved 2 people kissing for a photo at the peak of the Orca's jump. The moment the host finished his sentence, Liam blushed and the crowd started cheering. Chloe just smiled and leaned in, kissing him. In that instant, it felt like an invisible hand had closed around my heart and squeezed. After the show, Chloe tried to explain. Ethan, I know you're angry, but I didn't want to hold everyone up. Later, we went to the central staircase to wait for the fireworks. A firework exploded too close, sending sparks everywhere. The crowd panicked, and I was shoved off balance, about to tumble down the stairs. Chloe instinctively reached for me, but a terrified scream came from behind us. It was Liam. Without a moment's hesitation, she turned and ran to him. I watched her back as she abandoned me, and then I fell hard, getting trampled by the panicked crowd. When the chaos subsided, Chloe rushed to my side, her face full of concern, and tried to help me up. I'm fine, I said. You should take Liam home. But she wouldn't hear of it. She told Liam to get his own cab and insisted on taking me to the hospital. The doctor said it could be a concussion. He needs to be admitted for observation. Chloe frowned, looking at me with hesitation. I'll be fine, I said. The nurses are here. In the end, Chloe stood up and left. I wanted to ask her if she would have left so easily if our roles had been reversed, but the words died in my throat. It didn't matter anymore whether she loved me or not. I no longer cared. During my hospital stay, I scrolled through Liam's Facebook feed and saw 17 new posts. Chloe took me out for hot pot, was paired with a photo of her slender pale fingers placing a slice of beef in his bowl. So nervous for my first bungee jump, was accompanied by a picture of Chloe on the platform looking at him with a gentle expression that was painfully familiar. It was the same way she used to look at me. Chloe said she'll take good care of me since I have a cold. He posted with a photo of her gently stirring a bowl of hot soup. I suppose after a certain point, the pain just makes you numb. The day I was discharged from the hospital happened to be my birthday. My parents were away on business, but they had arranged for a lavish party to be catered at our house. I stood at the entrance in a custom suit, greeting guests. When Chloe arrived, she asked nervously, "What's wrong? Are you still angry with me? You come from a wealthy family. Of course, you'd be taken care of if you got hurt. Liam is different." She pulled a velvet box from her pocket. "I got you a present. It's that watch you've always wanted." Before she could finish, a loud crash echoed from across the room, followed by the screams of our guests. The elaborate three-tiered tower of gifts had collapsed. An expensive liquor was staining the floor. In the middle of the wreckage stood Liam, looking completely helpless. My birthday party was ruined. Get him out of here. Before I could finish the sentence, Chloe had already moved to stand in front of Liam. Ethan, don't. It's his first time at a party like this. He didn't know any better. It's my birthday, and I never even invited him. Seeing how furious I was, Chloe quickly tried to pull Liam away, but he had already ducked his head and bolted out the door. In her haste, she knocked over a decorative stand with her knee. Watching them run out one after the other, my heart ached so much I could barely breathe. From that day forward, I cut off all contact with Chloe. My phone screen lit up constantly with her messages. Ethan, please don't be angry. I bought you a present. I got movie tickets. Want to go together? It continued until she finally showed up at my house. She stood on my doorstep, her brow furrowed. Ethan, is this really such a big deal? I try to make it up to you. I've apologized and nothing works. I never asked you to make it up to me, and I never asked for an apology, I said coldly. If you're bored, go hang out with Liam. I don't mind. Chloe's composure shattered. What are you talking about? You're my boyfriend. I know I've been spending more time with Liam lately, but he saved my life, and I just wanted to repay that debt. Since it bothers you so much, and I've pretty much repaid him, I'll stop seeing him, okay? I was about to ask her if she actually believed that, but her phone rang. It was Liam. Chloe, some guys are harassing me at my part-time job. I gave a bitter laugh and shut the door in her face. Later, when she saw my packed suitcase, a gentle smile played on her lips. Let me help you pack, you little scatterbrain, so you don't forget anything. We can head to campus to register together tomorrow. She had no idea that I wasn't going to Boston. Not only that, but I was about to break up with her for good. My school's orientation is on a different date than Harvard's. I said, you should take Liam and get him settled in first. No, I don't feel right about you going by yourself. Liam is timid, and he's never been to Boston. You should show him around the city for a few days to help him get comfortable. She seemed surprised by my apparent generosity, but also relieved. Okay, I'll show him around for a few days, then. Just let me know when you're coming, and I'll pick you up from the airport. Okay, I agreed. Then, using the excuse that she needed to rest for her flight, I ushered her out. Chloe stared at the closed door, a vague sense of unease creeping into her heart. The next day, as I was dragging my suitcase toward the international terminal, I saw them in the distance. Chloe and Liam were at a check-in counter. She was looking up, adjusting his collar while he looked down at her, his eyes filled with pure reliance. Chloe suddenly frowned and glanced in my direction. I think I just saw Ethan. She started to walk toward me, but Liam quickly grabbed her arm. Didn't Ethan say he was coming in a few days? We're about to board. I've never been on a plane before. I can't do this without you. Chloe hesitated, but ultimately turned and followed Liam toward the gate. I stepped out from behind the pillar and watched them disappear into the crowd. Two planes took off simultaneously, one bound for Boston, the other for the far side of the Atlantic. As the plane touched down in London, I deleted the last photo I had of her on my phone. From that moment on, I was free from the girl who had defined my life for over a decade. I was ready to start new. The foreign streetscapes outside my window slowly came into focus. I dragged my suitcase to the entrance of the college. The autumn air here didn't carry the familiar scent of home, but it had a crispness that felt like a new beginning. The department's orientation was scheduled for the evening of the first day. After unpacking, I changed into a simple t-shirt and found a seat in the back of the auditorium. I watched the presentation on the screen, my fingers unconsciously tracing the cover of my notebook. Next, please join me in welcoming Dr. Evelyn Reed to the stage. A woman in a light beige pantsuit walked up to the podium. She wore a pair of delicate gold-rimmed glasses, and her eyes were warm and captivating, holding a bright, intelligent spark that was incredibly striking. From the whispers of the students next to me, I gathered that Dr. Reed had an American father and a Chinese mother, had skipped multiple grades through a combined master's and PhD program, and had become a full professor at the age of 23. She was a true prodigy. When Dr. Reed spoke, her voice was clear and pleasant. Welcome, everyone. Rather than professor, I hope you'll come to see me as a colleague on your academic journey." Her speech wasn't formal. Instead, she shared a few stories from her own time as a new student abroad, and the tense atmosphere in the room began to relax. After the speeches, there was a networking session. I was looking down at my resume when a shadow fell over me. I looked up and met Dr. Reed's smiling eyes. "Ethan Hayes, is that right? I was just looking over your pre-term assignment. Your proposed thesis is very original." I was taken aback for a second, then quickly stood up and gave a respectful nod. Her eyes scanned the research-focused section of my paper. "The project I'm working on right now touches on some of the theories you mentioned. Perhaps we could discuss it." Her tone was one of pure, genuine appreciation for a promising student. My tension slowly melted away as we fell into an easy conversation, standing in a corner of the hall and talking for nearly an hour. I became so engrossed in our discussion that I completely forgot my initial nervousness. When I finally looked around, I realized the venue was nearly empty. "I'm sorry, but I kept you too long," I asked, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Not at all," she smiled. "I'm just glad to see such a passionate student in the new cohort." She then turned toward the coffee shop just outside. "I'm going to grab a coffee. Would you like to join me? There's an international symposium in Philadelphia next week," she said. "Would you be interested in joining my research team for the trip? It would be a good chance to meet some leading figures in the field, which could be very helpful for your thesis." Holding the warm coffee cup, I felt a corner of my heart, long cold, being gently warmed. I looked up, a small smile forming on my lips. As I listened to her discuss the details of the symposium, I thought that maybe, just maybe, I could actually heal here in this new country and start moving forward. A sweet warmth spread from my tongue all the way to my heart. After joining Dr. Reed's research group, my life became a whirlwind of experiments, data, and books. The lab became my second home. I'd often look up from my work to find the sky had long since turned black. She seemed to have an endless workload herself and would often be there with me, working late into the night. One night, while we were calibrating a digital model, we were hunched over a computer screen cross-referencing data. The desk lamp cast a pool of light on the blueprints. I reached for my coffee cup at the edge of the desk, but my elbow knocked against it. Dark brown liquid spilled across the table, bleeding along the edge of the blueprint and blurring the meticulous dimension lines I had drawn. Ignoring the scrape on my elbow, I frantically grabbed for napkins, but my fingers only smudged the ink further. I had spent 3 all-nighters on that hand-drawn draft, and a wave of panic made my voice tremble. A warm, soft hand suddenly covered mine, stilling my movements. Dr. Reed was standing behind me. She didn't even glance at the ruined drawing. Her eyes were fixed on my elbow. "You're bleeding. Let me clean that for you." Her face was full of concern as she dabbed at the scrape with a cotton ball from the first aid kit. Then, Dr. Reed turned to the filing cabinet and pulled out a fresh sheet of drafting paper. "Don't worry," she said calmly. "I saved a digital backup last night. We could just print a new copy." She handed me a wet wipe for my hands, and as I looked up, my eyes met her gentle downward gaze. She was so close, I could smell the faint, pleasant scent of her perfume, which mingled with the sterile scent of the lab in a way that was surprisingly comforting. "Let's redraw it together," she said, naturally, taking the pen from my hand. As we worked, our shoulders would occasionally brush. When she leaned over to find the digital file on the computer, her warm breath tickled my ear, and I felt a blush creep up my neck. Something fluttered in my chest. A few days later, Dr. Reed invited me out for the weekend. There's a special exhibition on medieval architecture at the City Art Museum. I thought some of the mural manuscripts might give you some ideas for your research. Beautiful paintings lined the walls. In them, sunlight streamed through stained glass archways, and even the vines and the stone crevices were rendered with lifelike detail. My fingertips unconsciously traced the arc of a building in one of the paintings. Quite the coincidence, isn't it? Dr. Reed's voice came from behind me. I turned to see her holding an exhibition catalog. "I had a feeling you'd be interested in this. These murals have a lot in common with that paper you wrote on structural similarities." She actually remembered a detail from a paper I'd mentioned offhand weeks ago. I looked at her surprised. and my gaze met her smiling eyes. I quickly looked away, but I could feel my ears burning. My relationship with Chloe had been a whirlwind of passionate, dramatic gestures like the scorching sun in summer. But Evelyn's affection was like a gentle spring rain, nurturing and quiet. "Look here," she said, pointing to the catalog. "This load-bearing structure. Isn't it similar to the hidden framework of the piñata you were modeling last week?" I leaned in for a closer look, our heads close together. The sound of our quiet discussion echoed in the silent gallery, and our arms would occasionally brush against each other. As we left the museum, the setting sun was painting the clouds in shades of orange and pink. "There's a nice cafe nearby," she said. "I brought a book on historical pigment analysis I thought you might find interesting." I nodded, feeling the walls I had built around my heart begin to soften in the presence of this kind, thoughtful woman. Meanwhile, in Boston, Chloe walked ahead, pulling Liam's suitcase. The boy behind her gaped at the architecture. "Chloe, look at that building. It's incredible." His fingertips brushed against her wrist as he pointed. Chloe followed his gaze, and for a moment, she was lost in a memory. Last fall, she had brought me here for an academic competition, and I had stood under this very same tree, just as a truck passed by. I had even used my body to shield her from the sun when it got too bright. Her iMessage chat with me was still open to the last text she'd sent before her flight. "Ethan, when are you planning on coming? Let me know your arrival time, and I'll pick you up from the airport." She shook off the memory and smiled at Liam. "Come on, let's get you to your dorm." As Chloe spread the sheets on his new bed, Liam sat in a nearby chair, watching her. "Chloe, you're so good to me. I wish you could be this nice to me forever." Chloe didn't answer, simply pushing the folded comforter to the edge of the mattress. Liam suddenly leaned in and took her hand. "Chloe, there's a welcome bonfire for freshmen tonight. Let's go together." Just as he spoke, her phone vibrated in her pocket. It was the alarm she'd set to remind herself to call me. At the bonfire, Liam held a piece of grilled meat to Chloe's lips. As she took it, she accidentally grazed his finger with her teeth. He snatched his hand back as if he'd been burned, the tips of his ears turning bright red. But Chloe's eyes kept darting to her phone screen. Liam asked casually, "Hasn't Ethan texted you back yet?" Chloe frowned at her screen. Ethan wasn't the type to hold a grudge. Liam lowered his head, his long eyelashes hiding the glint in his eyes. Chloe was distracted for the rest of the night. She found a quiet corner and leaned against a window, sending me text after text, but my side of the conversation remained silent. Her thumb hovered over the words, "Good night." But in the end, she didn't send it. The next morning, Chloe was jolted awake by her alarm. She grabbed her phone, but there were still no new messages from me. Unable to stand it any longer, she went to the admissions office of the university I was supposed to attend, only to receive a devastating blow. The registrar checked the list and said, "We have no record of a student by that name enrolling here." Chloe's heart plummeted. If I hadn't enrolled at Boston University, where could I have gone? She immediately tried calling me, but was met with the automated voice. "The number you have dialed is not in service." After she hung up, Chloe's hands began to shake. Liam had appeared behind her holding 2 cartons of milk. "What's wrong?" Ethan changed his university choice, and I can't reach his phone. A flicker of something crossed Liam's face before he smoothed his expression back to normal. "Don't panic," he soothed. "Let's just wait a little longer." His fingers brushed against the back of her hand, a seemingly accidental touch. Chloe just stared blankly at her phone screen. For the next few days, her phone was practically glued to her hand. She replied to every single one of the hundreds of comments she left on my social media pages. Liam was her constant shadow, buying her food and sitting quietly with her whenever she grew agitated. One day, Chloe was sitting on the library steps. Liam said he was going to buy water and left his phone on the stone bench beside her. The screen suddenly lit up with an iMessage notification preview. "Job's done. When do I get the rest of the payment?" Below, it was Liam's reply from the previous night. "Don't worry. You'll get what's coming to you." Chloe's fingers clenched at the sight of the words. It felt as if an icy hand had seized her heart. She looked up sharply to see Liam walking back toward her. "Chloe, I bought you your favorite snack. You should eat something." Chloe quickly turned the phone over and forced a familiar smile as she took the pastry from his hand. The chat log she had just seen replayed in her mind. She glanced at the innocent-looking boy beside her, and for the first time, she felt a seed of suspicion. Chloe locked herself in her dorm room for 2 days. Her phone screen lit up and went dark as she dialed my number over and over, at least 100 times, always getting the same cold, automated message. She called her family's butler, who reported, "Miss Jensen, we can't find any university enrollment records for Mr. Hayes, nor any records of him purchasing a domestic flight ticket." The butler then added cautiously, "Is it possible he's traveling under a different name?" Chloe's knuckles turned white as she gripped her phone, her thumb tracing my profile picture on her screen over and over. The sound of a party drifted up from downstairs. Someone was singing a love song, but the noise felt muffled and distant, as if through a thick fog. Later, a sharp knock on the door startled her. It was Liam holding a bag of breakfast. "Chloe, you've missed class for days. Your academic advisor is asking about you." Liam set the breakfast on her desk. As he turned to get her a glass of water, he accidentally knocked her old phone off the table. It was a spare she kept, its screen long since cracked. Chloe's eyes fixed on the phone, the memory of the text message she'd seen at the library stabbing at her like a thorn. She watched Liam bend down to retrieve it, but she was faster. She snatched the phone from the floor, its cool surface a shock against her fingertips. "Chloe, give that back." Liam's voice was suddenly tight with panic as he reached for it. Chloe took a step back and pressed the power button. The password was her own birthday. She typed it in, opened the photo gallery, and felt her blood run cold. There were screenshots of a conversation between Liam and someone else. "I paid someone to hack into Ethan's application account and change his university choice. He can forget about ever being in the same city as Chloe. Chloe feels so guilty toward me now. She'll believe anything I say. Once I've got my footing here, she'll forget Ethan's name soon enough." Chloe's fingers began to shake uncontrollably. Blood rushed to her head, then drained away just as quickly, leaving her cold. She remembered complaining on the day applications were due. "Why does the system keep giving me a login error?" She remembered the panic in her voice when she called him. "Chloe, I think someone changed my application," and she had told him, "You're overthinking it. It's probably just a system glitch." She remembered all the times she had pushed Liam on her. "Chloe, stop reading." Liam lunged for the phone, his fingernails scraping red lines across the back of her hand. Chloe shoved him away, her eyes filled with a chilling fury. Her voice was like ice. "You changed Ethan's application? You paid someone to hack his account." Liam stumbled back against the desk, still trying to form a defense. "Explain." Chloe's voice trembled with rage. "Explain how you ruined Ethan's future. Or explain how you've been playing the victim this whole time." "I was just so scared of losing you," Liam cried, lunging to embrace her, but she recoiled in disgust. "He has everything. A rich family, your love. I have nothing. If I didn't do this, you never would have even noticed me." He wrapped his arms tightly around her waist, his eyes red with fear that she would leave him. Chloe looked at his face and felt a bitter, ironic taste in her mouth. "So, you resort to dirty tricks like this? Liam, you saved my life, and I'm grateful, but that doesn't give you the right to hurt Ethan. Tell me, what did you change his application to?" The thought of how kind she had been to Liam, only for him to viciously harm the boy she loved, made her heart ache as if it were caught in a vice. Liam shook his head. "I don't know. I just picked some random community college." Chloe felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. She shoved him away. "Please forgive me this one time," he begged. Chloe didn't spare him another glance. She grabbed her jacket and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. She leaned against the wall in the hallway for a long time, her chest heaving, the taste of blood in her throat. To think that she had repeatedly hurt the person she had loved her entire life, all for someone so venomous. Chloe went to every single community college in the Boston area, cornering admissions officers until they had no choice but to curtly tell her, "We have no record of an Ethan Hayes here," before shutting their office doors in her face. She had her parents' numbers saved in her phone, but it took her 3 days to work up the courage to call. Her mother's voice was cold. Ethan is not in Boston. He's not even in the country. Chloe's grip on her phone tightened, her knuckles white. Mrs. Hayes, what school did he go to? Please, you have to tell me. Miss Jensen, some mistakes can't be undone. The dial tone buzzed in Chloe's ear like a sharp needle. She sank onto the steps of a campus building, watching the leaves fall from the trees. She ran her hands through her hair in frustration before forcing herself to take a deep, calming breath. When Liam realized Chloe knew the truth, he was consumed by panic. He knew that if Ethan hadn't gone to a community college, but had instead gone to study abroad, any chance he had with Chloe was gone forever. The thought of Ethan on a plane to another country sent him into a full-blown panic. Liam intercepted Chloe on her way to the dean's office to request a leave of absence. "Chloe, are you really going to go look for Ethan?" "Liam," she said, her voice so cold, he could have been a stranger. There was never anything between us. Suddenly, Liam clutched his chest, swayed, and collapsed to the floor. In the past, Chloe would have rushed to his side. Now, she just frowned and took a half step back, watching him hit the ground with a dull thud. She didn't even move to help him. Liam lay on the floor, stunned by her coldness. It felt like a piece of his heart had been carved out. He screamed at her, his voice shrill. "Why are you still chasing after him? Chloe, you know it better than anyone. The moment you gave me that spot at Harvard, you were destined to lose Ethan forever." The sharp crack of a slap cut him off. Liam's head snapped to the side, and he stared at her in disbelief. Chloe's hand was still in the air, the fury in her eyes hot enough to incinerate him. "Who the hell do you think you are, Liam?" Chloe's voice was hoarse with rage. "You think you have the right to comment on my relationship with Ethan?" Liam flinched, terrified by the ferocity in her eyes. She called for her bodyguards. "Take him and watch him. Don't let him go anywhere." Chloe didn't spare Liam another glance. The bodyguards moved forward and hauled the limp boy to his feet. He finally snapped out of his shock and began to struggle, crying, "Chloe, you can't do this to me." "I did it for you, Chloe." His voice faded as they dragged him down the hall. Chloe took a deep breath and looked at the photo of him on her phone. The anger in her eyes subsided, replaced by exhaustion and deep regret. She took out her phone and sent a message to her advisor at Harvard. "Professor Liam Carter, I need to take a leave of absence for an off-campus academic research project." Chloe stared at the door to her empty room, her expression resolute. "Ethan, this time I'm going to get you back. I swear it." I sighed, staring at the data model on my computer screen. I'd been working so late in the lab that I'd lost track of time. When I finally looked up, huge raindrops were splattering against the window. I packed up my things and headed for the door, remembering the clear blue sky that morning. I never would have expected such a sudden storm. Just as I was debating whether to make a run for the tube station, I heard familiar footsteps behind me. Dr. Reed was standing at the end of the hall, holding a large black umbrella. "Dr. Reed, I thought you left hours ago." I had seen her leave with her laptop bag around 5 o'clock. She wiped a few raindrops from her cheek. "It started pouring right as I left campus. I figured you probably didn't have an umbrella, so I came back. I live near your dorm. I can walk you." I looked at the damp ends of her hair, and a warmth spread through my chest. The umbrella was large, but the rain was coming down so hard that we had to stand close together to stay dry. I could feel her shoulder occasionally brushing against mine, a warm pressure through the thin fabric of my shirt. I turned my head slightly and could hear the steady rhythm of her breathing mixed with the sound of the rain, creating a strange sense of peace. My heart skipped a beat. I pretended to be looking at the rain-soaked bushes along the path, but I was acutely aware of the faint, pleasant scent of her perfume mixed with the clean smell of the rain. It was incredibly calming. When we reached the flower shop on the corner, Dr. Reed suddenly stopped. She tilted the umbrella to cover me completely and dashed inside. A moment later, she emerged with a bouquet of white roses, their petals still glistening with raindrops. She held the flowers out to me with a warm smile. "To celebrate your paper being accepted for publication last week. I saw you reading that journal in the library. Your eyes were shining." My hand flinched for a second before I took the bouquet. I looked at the genuine warmth in her eyes and felt my cheeks grow warm. I'd almost forgotten about that. "You shouldn't forget something so important," she said. "Your research has real value. We continued walking, and the silence under the umbrella was no longer awkward, but comfortable. At that same moment, in another corner of the campus, Chloe was standing in the rain, completely drenched. She clutched a printed campus map, having wandered for 2 hours in the downpour before finally finding my dormitory. Rain streamed down her pale, beautiful face as she stared at the entrance to the men's dorm. Her eyes were bloodshot with a mixture of desperation and nervous anticipation. Just then, she saw me walking toward the entrance of the building with Dr. Reed, who was holding the umbrella over us. I was holding the bouquet of white roses, and on my face was an expression of softness and trust that Chloe had never seen before. The image burned into her mind like a branding iron. She clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her palms, her knuckles turning white. Rain blurred her vision, but she could see the scene with perfect, painful clarity. Her breathing grew ragged, and she finally broke, her voice a hoarse cry. "Ethan!" I turned to see Chloe standing in the rain, soaked to the bone. Her hair plastered to her forehead and her eyes terrifyingly red. How had she found me so fast? A wave of dread and revulsion washed over me. Before I could react, she rushed forward and grabbed my arm. "Ethan, why didn't you tell me Liam changed your application? Why did you just leave the country without a word? Do you have any idea how crazy I went looking for you back home?" Her voice was a hoarse, desperate accusation. Rain dripped from her chin onto the back of my hand. She looked crazed, her eyes locked on mine. She jabbed a finger toward Dr. Reed, her voice dripping with jealousy. "Is it because of her? You'd throw away our entire childhood, everything we had for her." "Excuse me," Dr. Reed's calm voice cut in. She had moved to my side, subtly shielding me with her body. Her voice was quiet but firm. "I am his professor, not his girlfriend. But he has every right to live his own life. Your behavior constitutes harassment. Do I need to call campus security?" Chloe glared at her, her eyes bloodshot. "This is between him and me. Stay out of it. There is nothing left between you and me," I said, my voice clear and final. I pulled my arm free from her grasp. My shoulder throbbed where she had dug her fingers in. "Chloe, we were over the moment you chose to keep Liam by your side. We are broken up." Chloe stood frozen as if she couldn't comprehend my words. Rain streamed down her pale face. She looked at me, her lips trembling. "No, that's not true. I never agreed to break up. Ethan, I've only ever loved you. Please come back to me. I'll give you anything you want." I looked at her, a cold smile on my lips. "Chloe, we can never go back. Not after you chose Liam over me. Time and time again. My words were a knife, and they found their mark." She staggered back a step, her eyes suddenly vacant, as if all the life had been drained from her. I turned away, avoiding her gaze. I walked past her without a second glance and entered the building with steady steps. Once I was out of the rain and out of her sight, I finally let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, my shoulders slumping in relief. "Dr. Reed, thank you." "Really?" I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Protecting my students is part of the job description," she replied, her tone light and teasing. "Call me anytime you need help." I nodded, and holding the white roses, I turned toward the stairs. I glanced back and saw Dr. Reed was still standing there, as if making sure I got to my room safely. A warm feeling spread through my chest. I turned away and went into my room. Downstairs, Evelyn's soft expression hardened. She looked down at the lingering, troublesome figure below and frowned. Perhaps my words had finally gotten through to Chloe, because she began a relentless campaign to atone for her mistakes. But Chloe's attempts at reconciliation were a long one-woman show that no one was watching. She had my favorite childhood pastries flown in from back home, but the package was returned to sender unopened. She found my class schedule and started showing up to my art history elective, always taking the seat next to me. For the entire 2-hour lecture, I never once looked in her direction, focusing on taking meticulous notes as if she were invisible. She waited under an umbrella outside the lab building for 3 hours. From the window, she could see me and Evelyn huddled over a set of blueprints. Evelyn leaned in to listen as I spoke, her finger tapping a point on the page. The sight of our easy intimacy was like a needle to Chloe's heart. Once she and I had been like that, inseparable, sharing everything, the closest of companions. Chloe waited outside the lab until I finally emerged late that night, only to watch me walk straight out the side entrance without so much as a glance in her direction. She haunted the campus like a ghost. But the most painful sight for her was always me and Evelyn. She'd see us walking side by side down a tree-lined path, our heads close as we discussed a project, or sharing a dessert in the cafeteria where Evelyn would naturally pick out the ingredients I didn't like. One day, I didn't show up for class or go to the lab. Chloe panicked. I never miss class without a reason. She had her family's fixer find my new number in London and dialed it immediately. The call connected, but it was Evelyn's calm, even voice that answered. "Hello." Chloe's composure shattered. She snarled into the phone, her voice shaking with rage. "Where is Ethan? Where is he? He has a fever. He's resting," Evelyn replied, her tone still placid. In the background, Chloe could faintly hear the sound of running water. "Put him on the phone. He's asleep. It's not a good time." The dial tone felt like a hammer blow to Chloe's heart. She paced outside the academic building, her mind racing with frantic thoughts. It wasn't until evening that she saw Evelyn's car pull up in front of my dorm. Meanwhile, Evelyn was at her apartment taking care of me. I was delirious with fever, muttering about data point for my thesis. She placed a cool, damp cloth on my forehead, changing it every half hour and patiently helping me sip warm water. When I dazedly opened my mouth, she mixed honey into the water and fed it to me one spoonful at a time. She kept watch by my bedside until she eventually fell asleep, slumped over the edge of the bed with a damp cloth still in her hand. When I woke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through a gap in the curtains, falling on her sleeping form. She was in a deep sleep with faint dark circles under her eyes. I watched her tired profile for a long time, my heart pounding as a warm feeling spread through me. I gently draped a blanket over her shoulders. After she woke up, she made me some soup before driving to the university. She was carrying the soup in a thermos. As she pulled up to the main academic building, she saw Chloe standing a short distance away. Chloe watched as Evelyn straightened my scarf, handed me the thermos, and received a smile from me in return. It was a weak smile, the smile of someone still recovering from illness, but it held a look of reliance that Chloe had never seen on my face before. Jealousy wrapped around Chloe's heart like a poisonous vine, and a tidal wave of regret washed over her. She'd had countless opportunities to be the one taking care of me, but she had given them all away. She clutched her chest, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. She was finally realizing that some things once lost are gone forever. I still hadn't fully recovered, and my face was pale, but I was back in the lab organizing data when Chloe appeared, blocking the doorway. "Ethan," she said, her voice thick with exhaustion. "Do you remember when we were kids? You were so afraid of the dark, you'd climb through my window every night so I could tell you stories until you fell asleep. When you had low blood sugar in high school, I always kept a chocolate bar in my bag for you. You said you wanted to go to Harvard, so I worked my ass off to become valedictorian just so we could be on the same campus." I looked up at her, a cold smile playing on my lips. "And then you gave the umbrella meant for me to Liam. You gave the breakfast you made for me to Liam. And when we were both in trouble, you ran to Liam." My voice was calm, but every word was a needle. She choked back a sob and took a step forward. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I know I was wrong. I found out everything. It was Liam who changed your application. I won't let him get away with it. I'll make sure he pays. Please just give me one more chance. Can we please go back to the way things were?" "Chloe, some things, once they're broken, can't be fixed. Miss Jensen, please leave." Evelyn's voice cut in from the doorway. "You're disturbing my student." Chloe was stunned by the warning in her eyes, but still looked at me, unwilling to give up. Evelyn stepped forward and firmly pried Chloe's hand from my arm. Chloe looked at us, standing together, her eyes filled with despair. For my sake, she finally turned and walked away, looking utterly defeated. "Are you all right?" Evelyn asked. "Do you want to go home and rest?" Exhausted from the past few days and drained by the confrontation, I just nodded. Just then, a news alert from back home popped up on Evelyn's phone. Her expression sharpened as she read it. Back in the States, a storm was brewing online. A post accusing me of academic fraud had gone viral on Twitter, pushed to the top of the trending list by a malicious party. It claimed my test scores were falsified and that I had stolen someone else's spot to study abroad, calling all of my academic achievements into question. Uninformed users piled on with insults. No wonder he got into such a good school. He pulled strings. Someone who steals another person's spot should be expelled. Evelyn immediately contacted her legal team and had the university issue an official statement. Mr. Ethan Hayes' admission was granted after a rigorous review process. All claims of nepotism are baseless. The university will pursue legal action against those spreading these defamatory rumors. Following that, I posted the evidence on my own social media. The transaction records between Liam and the hacker and screenshots of his Facebook posts where he deliberately mimicked and provoked me. I explained I was originally slated to attend Harvard University. However, my application account was hacked and my choice was maliciously changed to a community college, forcing me to pursue my studies abroad. I then posted copies of my published papers and academic awards. With the evidence laid bare, public opinion reversed in an instant. Users flooded my accounts with apologies and turned their vitriol on Liam, calling him twisted and malicious. So Liam was the real villain all along. I heard he was on a scholarship, and Ethan even helped him out. What a snake. Some people are just disgusting. Chloe saw the news while sitting in her car, staring up at my dorm window. Seeing Liam's desperate, malicious final act, she slammed her fist on the steering wheel in a fit of rage. But when she saw how methodically Evelyn helped me navigate the crisis and the sense of calm and security I had by her side, Chloe was nearly consumed by jealousy and regret. A paranoid fury burned in her eyes. If Liam wouldn't stay down, she would go back and show him the true meaning of consequences. It was raining the day Chloe flew back to the States. When she pushed open the door to the master suite of her family's empty mansion, the stench of stale alcohol and mildew assaulted her. The expensive crystal chandelier had been smashed, and the oil paintings on the walls were slashed to ribbons. This was all Liam's handiwork from his confinement. He was huddled in a corner, his matted hair stuck to his face. When he saw Chloe, his eyes first lit up with a flicker of hope, which was quickly replaced by a venomous fire. "Chloe, you finally came back for me. Did Ethan dump you again? I knew he would. I'm the only one who's ever been good to you. That's why you're back." Chloe's voice was colder than the rain lashing against the window. She bent down and picked up a phone from the floor. The screen showed the slanderous tweet Liam had posted, featuring a photo of me and Evelyn with a torrent of hateful comments below. She squeezed the phone so hard it creaked in her hand. Liam flinched, terrified by the look in her eyes. His words had pushed Chloe over the edge. She signaled to her bodyguards, who began dragging him toward the basement. "Chloe, what are you doing? Let me go!" he screamed as they hauled him into the cold, damp room. A bucket of ice water was thrown over his head, the frigid liquid soaking his hair and running down his collar, chilling him to the bone. Chloe crouched in front of him, her eyes as sharp and cold as poisoned daggers. "Are these hands of yours only good for doing dirty work?" She grabbed his wrist, her grip so tight he thought the bones would snap. "First you changed Ethan's application and ruined his future. Now you spread lies to destroy his reputation. I was wrong. I'll never do it again," he whimpered, not daring to meet her gaze, his voice a pathetic, trembling mess. "Let you go?" Chloe laughed, a sound devoid of any warmth. "Who let Ethan go when you were ruining his life?" She stood up and gave a cold order to the bodyguards at the door. "Break his hands." Realizing she was serious, Liam screamed in terror and scrambled backward. The bodyguards advanced, their faces impassive. One pinned his shoulders while the other grabbed his wrist and twisted. Two sharp cracks echoed in the basement, followed by Liam's agonized, blood-curdling scream. Both of his wrists were bent at unnatural angles, and blood began to pool on the cold floor. Watching Liam writhe and scream on the ground, Chloe felt not a shred of pity. She thought of how those hands had typed the keystrokes that changed my application, that had written the lies that slandered my name. She thought of how, because of him, She had pushed me away, and the fire of her rage burned even hotter. "Beat him," she commanded. "Beat him until he begs for mercy." The bodyguards exchanged a look but obeyed. The sickening thud of fists hitting flesh and Liam's desperate cries echoed in the empty basement. After what felt like an eternity, Liam lay on the floor like a broken doll and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Chloe turned and left without a backward glance, the sounds of Liam's pathetic screams and the bodyguard's relentless assault fading behind her. The next day, she walked into the Harvard dean's office and threw a folder onto his desk. It contained all the evidence of Liam's crime, the proof that he had changed my application and the transaction records with the hacker. "I demand that Liam Carter be expelled and that his actions be made public," she said, her voice calm, but carrying an undeniable weight. "If the university fails to act, this folder will find its way to the front page of every major news outlet." The dean looked at the irrefutable evidence, then at the icy resolve in Chloe's eyes, and immediately agreed. The rain was still falling when she left the campus. Chloe looked up at the gray, overcast sky, but felt no satisfaction from her revenge, only a vast, hollow emptiness. She had destroyed Liam, but it wouldn't bring me back. The cold, driving rain couldn't wash away her regret, nor could it ever warm the heart she had shattered. The online storm eventually died down. The malicious comments about me were replaced by posts praising my academic achievements. But the memory of that flood of hatred was like a thin sheet of ice that, even after melting, left a bone-deep chill. I sat at my computer, my fingers resting on the keyboard, so lost in thought that I didn't even notice Evelyn walk in. She placed a mug of hot chocolate next to my hand, its warmth seeping into my palm. "Don't pay any attention to what they say online," she said. But then she saw the deep exhaustion in my eyes. "I've arranged for you to have a week off. I'm taking you somewhere." I didn't even ask where we were going. I just went with her. We drove for hours heading north until we stopped before a breathtaking view of a lake and mountains. The outline of a snow-capped peak shimmered in the sunlight, its reflection perfect in the deep blue water below. The oppressive weight I'd been carrying for days felt as if it had been swept away by the crisp, clean air. "My parents live up here," Evelyn explained. "They wanted to have you over for dinner." Her family's home was nestled on a hillside, surrounded by fields of lavender. The moment her mother saw me, she took my hand and wouldn't let go. "We've heard so much about you," from Evelyn. "This girl has never brought a young man home before. All she ever does is work in that lab." Her father chuckled and handed me a cup of hot tea. "That's our Evelyn. Skipped so many grades. She became a professor at 23. But when it comes to romance, she's completely clueless." For the first time, I saw the ever-composed Evelyn blush. I couldn't help but smile. Evelyn's parents cooked an incredible meal for me, her mother sharing embarrassing stories from Evelyn's childhood while her father and I discussed the current state of historical architectural preservation. The atmosphere was so warm and welcoming. It was a kind of easy comfort I had never experienced before, free of cautious prodding or hidden agendas. That evening, Evelyn and I took a walk in the garden. The sky was filled with stars like scattered diamonds. The Milky Way was so clear it felt as if you could reach up and touch it. A gentle breeze carried the clean scent of the mountain pines. Evelyn suddenly stopped and turned to face me. The light in her eyes outshone the stars above. "Ethan," she began, her voice tinged with a nervousness I'd never heard before. "This time I've spent with you every day has been precious. I don't want to just be your professor or just your academic partner." The pause made my heart beat faster. "I want to be the person who spends the rest of her life with you. I want to wake up and see you every morning. I want to be there with you through all of your research, and I want to see the world with you." My heart skipped a beat. I thought of the wet wipe she'd silently handed me in the lab, of her holding the umbrella over me in the rain, of her smiling eyes at the art museum, and of the undisguised concern in her expression as she cared for me when I was sick. All those quiet moments of her kindness, which had started as a small stream, had without my realizing become a river flowing through the softest part of my heart. I looked up, met her star-filled eyes, and softly said, "Okay." Evelyn froze for a second. Then pure joy lit up her face. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me, holding me tight. She rested her head on my chest, and it felt as if, in that one embrace, she was trying to make up for all the lost time. The mountain wind whispered past, carrying the scent of lavender. The river of stars flowed silently overhead. I held her close, feeling the steady beat of her heart. This love wasn't a dramatic, all-consuming fire like my first. It was like the starlight above us, quiet, gentle, and constant. A few years later, it was my graduation day. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of the university chapel, casting colorful patterns on the floor. I stood at the podium in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, ready to give the valedictory address. My gaze swept calmly over the crowd, finally resting on Evelyn. And I want to give special thanks to Dr. Evelyn Reed, not just for her academic guidance, but for teaching me that a good relationship isn't about one-sided sacrifice or dependency. It's like a well-designed structure where both parts support each other, making the whole stronger. The chapel filled with applause. As I stepped down from the stage, she rose to meet me, naturally taking the diploma from my hands. In her open palm lay a silver ring, its face intricately carved with the pattern of a galaxy. It was the ring I had spent 3 all-nighters handcrafting for her. No words were needed. A single look conveyed everything. In the crowd, Chloe's presence was conspicuous. She was attending as a representative of a top architectural firm that partnered with the university, but she looked like a complete outsider. She watched as Evelyn and I stood together in the spotlight, receiving acknowledgement from the university president. She watched the way my eyes crinkled when I smiled and saw it merge with the memory of the carefree boy she once knew. I had truly grown up, and I truly no longer belonged to her. After the ceremony, as the crowd began to disperse, Chloe stepped in front of Evelyn and me, blocking our path. She wore a sharp, tailored suit. Her makeup was flawless, and her eyes held no resentment, only a polite, detached distance. "Congratulations, Ethan." "Thank you," I replied. "I hope you find your own happiness, too." Evelyn stood quietly by my side, a silent, protective presence. Chloe's gaze lingered for a second on our intertwined hands, and for a moment, it looked as if a great weight had lifted from her shoulders. She turned to leave. "Evelyn," I said softly. She turned back. I leaned in to give her a gentle kiss on the cheek. As sunlight glinted on our joined hands, I took the opportunity to slip the silver ring onto her finger. Then I pulled her into my arms. In that moment, Chloe froze. I could feel her eyes on our backs as we walked away. We didn't look back. We just left happy, like any other couple in love, oblivious to the world around us. Chloe remained frozen in the distance, a hollow, aching pain spreading through her chest. It wasn't the sharp sting of before, but a deep, empty ache. I had truly found my own happiness. She watched our retreating figures, watched me wrap my arm around Evelyn's waist, watched as we leaned in to whisper to each other. Only after we had disappeared down the corridor did she slowly raise a hand to cover her face. A warm tear slipped through her fingers and fell to the ground, leaving a small, dark spot on the pavement. The entanglement that had defined our youth had finally come to an end. In the distance, the chapel bells began to chime, sounding the final note on a chapter of our lives. The winters in Boston seemed colder than those in London. Chloe had locked herself in her family's empty mansion and had been drinking for 3 days straight. The living room floor was littered with empty bottles. The city lights, filtering through the curtains, reflected in her bloodshot eyes. Her mother found her there, her heart aching at the sight of her daughter. "Look at you destroying yourself again. I warned you not to get taken in by that Liam boy, but you wouldn't listen. You're the one who pushed Ethan away. What did you expect?" Chloe buried her face in her arms, a pain so catching in her throat. Only the alcohol could numb the excruciating pain in her heart, the pain of remembering that I was gone for good. Late that night, a furtive figure picked the lock on the back door. It was Liam. His wrists were in crude casts, and his face was a mass of bruises. After his expulsion, he had been committed to a psychiatric hospital where he was tormented by the other patients. He clutched a rusty paring knife in his good hand. The room reeked of alcohol. Chloe was slumped over the coffee table. She looked up at Liam with hazy, drunken eyes. "Ethan, you came back. I knew you'd come back for me." She kept muttering my name. Hearing her call out my name with such love, a love that would never be for him, all of Liam's suppressed resentment and jealousy exploded. "Look at me," he shrieked. "I'm Liam, not Ethan. Why is he the only one you ever see?" The knife in his hand plunged into her chest. Chloe looked down at the knife protruding from her chest. She didn't seem to feel any pain. The only word she uttered was, "My name, Ethan." Liam had completely snapped. He laughed as he lit a piece of alcohol-soaked fabric on the sofa, and the flames roared to life. "Let's go to hell together, Chloe." Liam sat by the growing fire as it began to consume the mansion. In Chloe's fading vision, she saw my face, smiling, reaching out to her. With the last of her strength, she reached for the phantom, and then she stopped breathing. By the time the sirens of fire trucks and police cars cut through the night, the mansion was an inferno. The police dragged Liam from the wreckage, still muttering insanely, "She's mine," his eyes vacant as he stared at the flames. The fire hadn't consumed his love, but his twisted, desperate life. Chloe was rushed to the ICU, but the doctors couldn't save her. I was with Evelyn, going over the checklist for a new museum exhibit when my mother called. Her voice was a mixture of anger and sorrow. "Chloe's dead. Liam stabbed her. She died in the fire." My hand paused, the tip of my pen leaving a small blot of ink on the paper. I felt no great wave of emotion, only a cold chill that crept up my spine. The girl I had loved, then hated, and finally let go of had met a brutal, tragic end. Evelyn noticed my stunned silence and took my hand. "You should go back," she said softly, "just to say goodbye." At the funeral, Mrs. Jensen sat before the casket, her hair seemingly having turned white overnight. When she saw me, she grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. The doctor said, for the 7 days she was in the ICU, she never stopped saying her name. Evelyn and I each placed a bouquet of white lilies before her portrait. Looking at the photo of the bright, vibrant girl I once knew, I felt no love or hate, only a quiet sense of finality. Evelyn didn't press me with questions. She simply took me to the beach where I always want to clear my head. A few years later, an architectural restoration project, I led won a major international award, and my name became a fixture in industry journals. Evelyn and I were married in a small chapel on the banks of the Seine. It was a simple ceremony with only our closest friends and family. My father and Evelyn's father hit it off immediately, talking about everything from business to their shared love of tea. Before the ceremony, a lawyer I didn't know delivered a small box. He said it was from Chloe's with instructions that it be delivered to me on my wedding day. Inside the box was an orange cashmere scarf and a card. On it, in a shaky hand, she had written a wedding gift. "It's the last thing I can do for you." It was the scarf I had wanted for my 18th birthday, the one I had told her not to buy because I thought the color was too loud. The scarf was clean and smelled faintly of sunshine. On the back of the card, in small letters, was one last line: "May my boy always live in the sun." I tucked the card away. Evelyn came and took my hand, her touch warm and steady. Sunlight filtered through the stained glass window, dappling our joined hands with light. The smile in her eyes shone like 1,000 stars. We walked out of the chapel together into the bright sunshine and onto the long, bright road ahead.